Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, YouTube. This is Rosh, and this is a video series I'm putting together called AxeFX 3 Basics. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for reaching out via email, leaving comments in the comments section, asking and requesting for more videos. I would be happy to cover future subjects. So I want to thank all you guys for, I see some of these videos even being shared on some of the Fractal forums, so that's really cool. I'm glad I'm out there helping some of you guys out. So anyways, in one of the comments, somebody requested, hey, can you show how to use, how to adjust your amp volume using different scenes? So what he's referring to is scene controllers, and that's what this video is going to cover in this topic. So a little about me, I'm Rosh. I'm a guitar player and, an LA-based guitar player and guitar tech. Some of my clients include Melissa Etheridge, Steve Vai, Dweezil Zappa, Perfect Circle, Bush, and more. So this is going to be about scene controllers, and it's a really powerful thing. And so what we're going to do is let's do a quick build, and let's set out one. Oops, out one should be here. In one, amp, and cabinet. All right, and let's connect those. All right, and give ourselves a little room. Okay, so we got the Captain Hook. We got, what do we got? Yeah, that'll work. And let's see. Okay, cool. And then here's some of my default settings. Okay, great. So we got this basic rock tone right here. And let's see what the volume. Great, awesome. Okay. So let's talk about controllers for a second, because I haven't actually covered that in any one of my videos. So if you aren't aware of what a controller is, any of these parameters that have this little circle right here, you can assign a controller to. So if you right-click any one of these controllers, it's going to ask you for a source. And the source is basically what is going to control this knob right here. And you can see that depending on what effect you're using, what knob, you can control the feedback of a delay, you can control the mix of a reverb, you can control the input gain of something else, you can control the whammy, the wah, etc. So what I'm doing is I'm right-clicking, and then it's going to ask for a source. Generally, what most people do is if they're using an expression pedal, they assign it to external 1 or 2, or in the back of the AxeFX, there are also jacks for pedal 1 and 2. And then other things that people do is maybe assign a control switch to one of the controllers right here, so you can kind of like control different functions within it, or the LFO, which are basically how to program automatically, so it just is kind of cycling through something, or even a sequencer. What we'll cover today is, and I'll cover all these in future videos, what we'll cover today is the scene controller function. Now, this is a really powerful thing that you can do, and what it really is that, so for example, the source right here is scene controller 1. You have up to 4, and you can assign them to be different things and assign them to work on different functions. What a scene controller is that in a scene, in the controller menu right here, you're going to go down to scene control, and you can see it's 1 and 2. So scene controller 1, scene controller 2, and then scene controller 3 and 4. This is scene controller 1, and see all these percentages right here? That means whatever you have assigned to scene controller 1, whatever parameter, it's going to read this percentage and then apply it to that parameter. And it depends on what scene you're in. So for example, if I set this to 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, 70%, and 80%, each scene from scene 1 through 8 is going to read this percentage and apply it to the effect. It's really easy to hear if we use something like the pitch block and use a classic whammy. So for example, if I assign the scene controller 1 to the whammy, that means in scene 1, it's going to be at 10%. In scene 2, it's going to be at 20%, and I don't know what is going on here. Scene controller, it seemed to reset. That's weird. Let's do that again. 70 and 80, and then we'll save this. So you see it's in scene controller 1. These are the percentages, and every scene is going to go increment by 10% because that's what we assigned in the controller function right here. So for example, in scene 1, the whammy is going to be at 10%. In scene 2, the whammy is at 20. Scene 3, the whammy is at 30. So if I play a note, and so on. And you can assign this, again, scene controller to anything. So for example, if you, instead of using it like on an effect like a whammy, let's say in scene you want to use the same amp, but you just want more gain in certain scenes. So for example, we'll use maybe scene 1 will be less gain, and in scene 2 will be more gain. And you want to use the same amp, but you just don't want to, you know, you don't want to add a new amp block, and also you don't want to have the switching an amp type. So like if you were using the Captain Hook amp in scene 1 and you wanted to use the same amp type but just a different amount of gain, you wouldn't get any gapless, or you wouldn't get any audio gap when you switch between scenes because you're using the same amp block. If you're wondering, this is also another method to get seamless audio switching, so gapless switching. If you want to get further in depth on gapless switching, watch one of my earlier videos. I have one titled Gapless Switching. So for example, let's say I want less gain in scene 1 and then more gain in scene 2. You want to play with these values right here. So we'll go to the controllers, and let's say we want the gain to be somewhere around here for scene 1. And let me just default these. Let's set all to 0 for right now. And what I did was I click there and it resets everything. So let's say you want the gain here. And the cool thing is that if you already assign it to a scene controller, in scene 1 you can actually adjust this and it's going to follow this knob right here. So the gain's all the way off. Whoops. And I can add a little bit of gain here. So let's say that's our starting point, and in scene 2 we would just want more gain, like maybe here. And now the cool thing is, switching between each scene will give you more gain. Whoops. Scene controller 1. So in scene 2, man, freaking out a little bit. So let's set all to 0 again. So sometimes it can be a little finicky. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. So right now each scene is also switching the control channel because you can assign 4 channels per scene. Let's copy. Let's just make sure that scene 1 and 2 are following the same controllers. There we go. Okay. Awesome. So sometimes you might have this switching. Okay. So we have scene 1, and then our gain's going to be here. And you see, it'll follow whatever scene 1 is going to be. All right, and then scene 2 is going to be here. And again, make sure that this is on the same channel. It's going to follow this scene right here. So the gain's going to be set here in scene 2, but the gain's going to be set here in scene 1. So if we save that, and then we switch between scene 1, which is going to be less gain, and then scene 2 with more gain. And then let's say scene 3, you want high gain. So we'll go back to the controllers. We're in scene 3. Let's adjust the gain to where we want it. Let's say we want the gain to be here. So now you're using the same amp and you're getting switching between different levels of gain. And the cool thing is, because you're not switching amps, you're just adjusting this knob. It's just going to be totally seamless and gapless. So these scene controllers are very useful, and the cool thing is you get 4 of them per preset. So Other things you can do, for example, is let's say you want to, assign a different effect like a drive pedal. And this is a pretty common one. You want to set the amount of drive to different scenes. Or, well, let's use something that's a little bit more applicable, because I think this probably covers how to like set more gain per scene. Let's say you want more reverb per scene. So we'll do a little reverb right here. And we'll do my default settings. And then use the input gain right down here to set how much reverb you want. So let's say, let's remove this scene controller for time being. And now this is going to be less verb, medium verb, and lots of verb. And the cool thing is if you assign this knob right here to read from scene controller 1, it will follow where those knobs are set in each scene. So if you look down in the bottom right-hand corner, you got 20% right there. You got about 50% in scene 3, or I mean scene 2, and you got about 80% in scene 3. And the cool thing is that the reverb will follow that. Oh, I can't even play a chord today. So here's the reverb trail. And you can hear that it's just the input gains being adjusted. Again, anything that has that little circle you can adjust to read from a scene controller. And since you get 4, you can adjust different ones. So for example, let's adjust the scene controller 2 right here. And let's say we want to here, then maybe here, and then maybe here for each scene. Or actually, let's do it in reverse. Let's say you want this one, and then it'll be here, and then it'll be very little. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually reverse the delay time right now. So we'll assign this, again, to scene controller 2, because we adjusted the second one. And now that's a lot of reverb in scene 1. And then there's going to be less reverb in scene 2. And then less reverb in scene 3. Now, this actually brings up a good topic to also address, is that in the scene controllers, you want to adjust your minimum and maximum value. So right here, the minimum value is 10, and then the maximum value is 100. So we probably don't need 100 seconds of reverb. Let's maybe go from something like 15 seconds of reverb to very little. Now, the scene controllers right here are going to be a percentage of the maximum value. So the maximum value that we set here is 15 seconds. Let's do 10, so it's just a little easier to do the math. So if we have 10 seconds, what's going to happen is that, and let's use really easy to read values. So this is 75%, this is 50%, and this is 15%. So right here, the maximum value that we set was 10 seconds. So 75% of 10 seconds is 7.5 seconds. And then 50% of 10 seconds, because that's the maximum value, is 5 seconds. And then 15% of 10 seconds is 1.5 seconds. So you'll see that this kind of follows that. And it's not going to be like perfect, but because the minimum value right here only goes to 0.1 rather than 0, and this isn't actually set to 9. It's set to like very close to 10. Okay, so you'll see right here, this is we'll go to scene 1 where there's going to be a lot of reverb. That's about 75%. That's close to our 75%, 7.5 second mark. And then when we go to scene 2, that was close to our 50% mark in scene controller 2 right here. And then in scene 3, we're going to the 15%, which is 1.5 seconds. And the other thing is you see that also the values down here are also following the percentages of scene controller 1. So you can see that 20%, 80% or 50%, and then 80%. So again, they're not going to be exact values because of where you set the minimum and maximum values in the controller menu, but they're going to be pretty close. So these are just a couple different ways to use scene controllers. Obviously, you get 8. So the cool thing is you can have one amplifier have 8 levels of gain, depending on what scenes you want. You can have, 8 different input gains of reverb, or 8 different, lengths of reverb or delay trails or anything. Basically anything that has a controller, that little circle in there, you can have it adjust. I mean, you can EQ the amp differently in different scenes and everything like that. And the cool thing is you notice that we're always on the same channel. Doesn't matter what it is, and there's no audio gap. So there are an infinite amount of ways to use scene controllers. These are just some of the few basics. Most of the time using scene controllers, I definitely use them mainly to adjust amp gain and also mixes of effects between scenes. Some presets I've built, they have like a dry scene so that there's no like reverb trails or anything. So we're just dropping all the input gain to 0. And then of course, if you want the gapless switching, and you like the amp sound, but you just like, you need more gain or something as you go into like a lead sound or higher scenes, then this is a really powerful way to do it. So that's going to cover it for scene controllers for this video. If you guys have any questions or need any one-on-one help, by all means, reach out to me, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks. It goes up and turns back down. We're all looking for the